my sacrifice in it is I don't have enough money in my account to make a full shopping. So this month, I'm making half the shopping. The money that I don't spend this month goes into the bank or goes somewhere that I can't spend it, because if I do spend it, I've just taken food out of my children's mouth, because they went with half rations for the whole month. And that's conversations people are not ready for. They're like, oh, you can't do that. That's child cruelty. That's abuse. How is it abuse when the government barely gives you money to live on as people? And when the government do it, it's fine. When I do it, it's a problem.
It's reality, isn't it?
Yeah. When they do it, it's a problem. It's just psychologically, people are not programmed to fend for themselves.
See, one of the biggest things that people don't do is think. So what a lot of people don't understand is that I'm learning from watching you. So if you're on fire, come to me and I'll give you more fire. So one of the key things to remember, this is for everyone, is that what entertains you also trains you, and what you tune into, you turn into. Welcome back to my channel, where we will be discussing business, property, lifestyle and well-being. If this is your first time you are visiting my channel, then please hit the like and subscribe button. How would you introduce yourself? You introduce yourself. Afrisha.
So I'm Afrisha. I'm from Leeds, and I'd like to think myself a serial entrepreneur.
Yeah.
But at the moment, I'm a bespoke sourcing agent, and I have my own company set up in Leeds.
So when you mean bespoke sourcing, that's to do with properties, right?
Yeah.
So let's just say, like, if I was an investor and I had 100 grand, and I would come to you and say to you, listen, find me a property where I can get this much profit, then you would go out and look for it and find them.
In a sense, because we also offer like a consultancy as well, so it depends on what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Then I would advise you in terms of what strategy to go down with the 100k.
Yeah.
Because 100k can do a lot of things, so it just depends what your end goal is.
Yeah.
And then I can tell you which strategy would be best, or advise you in terms, which strategy would be best for you. To reach your goal quicker.
Cool. So let's take it back a little bit. So when did you start off in property? Tell me.
I was 16, and I got an apprenticeship for business administration at a letting agency. And this is coming off of the back of a cold call centre job that I absolutely hated.
In Leeds?
Yeah.
Yeah. How old are you now?
I'm 26. Keep forgetting.
Wow, so you have known about properties for almost like 10 years now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so that's how you first got into property, yeah?
Yeah.
Where you started learning a little bit about it. And then how did you want to get involved more, and what happened, blah, blah, blah?
So my initial goal was to work, build up a savings pot, and then I would have enough money to probably invest into a house. But at the time I was young and I didn't know much about inflation and the way things rise, and essentially the kind of like gap that we have in the market for young people investing in property or becoming a property owner. So what I did instead was just bounce from job to job with the intention of buying a house in mind.
Just like a home?
Yeah, just like a home.
Yeah.
And I just looked at loads of different avenues in terms of raising capital and making a lot of money, and trying to do that at a young age. So I'd be in seminars where people wouldn't expect to see a young person. I'd be at different networking events. I'd be all over the shop just trying to...
From your very young age?
From 16.
Wow.
I think at 16 I was involved in a company called ACN, which is a pyramid scheme kind of thing, but at the time they didn't advertise it as that. A network, more to network and trying to understand how networking works. And that's the angle that they pitched to me.
See, like, even for us adults, us going to like flipping networking events, I know how daunting that can be, even like, especially if you're like a bit, like you're a bit shy person, or you don't like engaging with people. How was it for you, like, when you was that young going to networking? Because it wouldn't have been many people that are 16 up there, 17, right?
Yeah, there was a lot of events or a lot of rooms where I was like the youngest person in the room, and it wasn't, I wouldn't find it hard, because I get along with adults a lot better than I got on with people my own age, just because where their mind was, mine wasn't. So for me, it wasn't as bad. It was just when it comes to trying to talk to somebody older and they kind of like shrug you off or make you feel a bit crappy because you're younger.
You don't belong here type thing.
Type of thing. And I've had that feeling before, but me coming from where I come from Antigua, that's where I came from, and I got past the feeling of being like, you know, told to go away. So when they was telling me to like go away, I make my voice heard, but actually, excuse me, I actually have a question. And because of the way I came across and the way I sounded, and they turned around and looked like, who the heck is speaking like that? They saw like this skinny little 16-year-old girl and me with a notepad and a pen, and I'll just stand there blinking at them until they answered my question. So it was one
and
of
that
those
worked
things,
for you.
Yeah, it was one of those things that you had to assert yourself, and you know, the knowledge helped. I could use my big words because I had them. As my ammunition, and that's my only ammunition.
Okay. Well, that's good too, because it is like a bit of a, you know, property is a bit of a, like a man's world, isn't it? Like even like this, you go to certain networking events or older people, and it's different. I think now certain parts it is a lot of younger people, but imagine back then, like that was 10 years ago, right?
Yeah.
I can only imagine.
Yeah.
So then fast forward, then what happened?
Again, went to different networking events. I joined different like networking companies and learned basically to sell. And I found an issue with selling because the person that I am and the person that they wanted me to be was just not merging. It wasn't part of something I want to do. My nature was just like, you don't want to do that.
And what, selling you mean? Yeah. Did
selling.
You find it cringy? Like?
I find it, the way that they were selling was a really old-fashioned way of selling, and I knew this. It was an old-fashioned way because they had me reading books like Dale Carnegie, which, I mean, for Dale's time, in the 60s, people like me, they wouldn't buy a stone from. Do you get what I'm saying? Like it was just not tailored to people of my complexion or my gender, you know, or my background. It was just not for me at all. I'm not rich. I'm born into a broke family. I don't go to prep schools. I'm black, first of all. I'm female. And it's just all the no's. For me to read Dale Carnegie's book and try to implement that at that time, it was just, I was like, there's no point, might as well burn it. When it came into property, I was at a networking event and I was pregnant with my daughter. And I was thinking, like, I need to make this work. And I just thought I had to make something work because my daughter cannot be born broke. And it was just something, a curse that I wanted to break because it's happened to my mum, everybody in my ancestry. So I'm not wanting to do that for my child. It wasn't working, the networking events.
You were 18, 19 here though, yeah? Right, okay.
Yeah, so it wasn't working. And I thought I need something more secure because at these networking events, they kind of just sell you a dream. You got to build a team, you got to do this, you got to do that, but they have to pay this and pay that, and it was just not working for me. I've tried it, it didn't work. I did trading, I did like Avon, my mum did this clean easy thing, a bunch of different pyramid scheme kind of event things, if I'm allowed to say that. After that, I thought I'll go to property because property is the safest thing that I know that works.
Yeah.
And I needed to learn more about how the government does property in the UK. So if there's any chance for me to actually get into that. At this point, my credit history is like, because I'd be using it to get to these events and pay for things because that's what they promote you to do. They promote you to get in debt so then you can make it back out of the debt and good debt and all that kind of stuff. So now I'm in debt. My credit score is naff and I can't get a loan, but I will go ahead and get the knowledge. So I did that, and then fast forward up to now, just pre-COVID, I went to a property event, my first paid property event, and I spent, I think it was $2,500, to go to the initial week-long event, and it was in Essex. And I was pregnant with my son at this point. My daughter's staying at my mum's. And it was hard because I was like 7 or 8 months pregnant. So the trimester is when it's the hardest trimester to get through. But I still went because I meant I had to go there. And we was there, we was learning all this stuff, and they was promoting all these different companies and website this and, you know, cleaning that and supply and services this, and they was promoting all these companies. We ended up paying £600 for a website at the event, and then by the end of the event, we ended up spending another 10 to 15K to go on to a year-long training. So it wasn't even the worst of it because there's another guy there that spent like £25,000
Really?
on one sitting.
Was this on one strategy or just everything in total?
It's supposed to be like everything. He was supposed to go with you to the course, go through the course with you and help you buy your first property, basically, help you get your step on the ladder. And
so hold your hand,
hold your hand.
That's how they sold it, yeah?
That's how he sold it.
Right.
So I'm looking at it and I'm realizing that all these people, this is after I've paid, by the way, so we've paid it. My partner and I scrimped and saved and worked like graveyard shifts and everything to manage to get like a pool of 10 grand. And we said, okay, we're going to go here, we're going to learn what we need to learn, and then he's going to show us how to buy a property or how to invest in a property. And we've got 10 grand, so we're supposed to get in on a good foot. Comes to find out that we don't have enough for the both of us to do it. So he cut us a deal. And we ended up spending the whole of our £10,000 and then some that we were supposed to pay to buy a house. And had we have done that, we'd have been better off now. But we didn't. We spent it on him.
Is this the course we met at? Or is it
no, it was a course prior to that.
Right, okay.
And then...
Wow, so you already spent like...
Yeah. In total, we managed to spend about £15,000 at that one event.
Hell, Afrisha.
Coming out of it. And it was just one of those ones like, okay, this absolutely positively has to work. You can't put people in that mindset, you know, and promise them these things, your time, you're going to handhold them, walk them through when they've spent such a large amount because you don't know how they got that money. Quite frankly, they don't care how you get the money. He promised to basically guide us through the whole process. Turns out that we paid 15 grand for an online course. We tried to call him, we get like call center staff type thing happening. We tried to, you know, email him. We don't get no response. We tried to speak to his partner. Nothing. So basically, there is no direct contact with the person you spent 15 grand to have contact with. And after that, it was just like a mental point where I broke, like completely broke, because I'm already hormonal with the baby. And we've just spent like 15k and we are trying to make this thing work so bad and they're not responding to us. We've been scammed, essentially. Like, And it was hard for us because it took us so long to get to the point where we can probably put a deposit on a smaller house. Maybe the house that we was living in, because we had like a small 2-bedroom house at the point. And we'd be able to progress from there, you know, regardless of what would have happened. We could have been like, you know, bare walls, but we'd at least know that we owned the house that we're living in. And it was just one of those, it was heartbreaking and it was just, I almost quit at that point. But we thought, like, you know what, cool, we'll pick up from here. We'll start over. We'll look for somebody else who can mentor us because that's what we needed, just the mentorship. Everything else we already had and everybody wants to do mindset. Mindset is already there, it's set, it's locked. I've been doing mindset from 16 up until like 22, 23.
Yeah.
So my mindset game is already locked. Now I'm trying to get to the next step. And we came across an event that cost £1 to go to, so we went there. At the offset, we got more than we bargained for £1.
Cost £1.
Yeah, cost £1. So we went there because we didn't have anybody at this time. We're broke at this point. So we went there, and you know, he was giving it all of this, and I was enthralled. Like I was there, I was pregnant. Met the guy's wife, and his wife was there, and she was pregnant at the same time as well. And she was just like, I can't believe you came to this event and you're pregnant. I was just like, but you're here and you're pregnant. He's like, yeah, but that's my husband up there. I was just like, yeah, I know, but the fact is, you're here, you're pregnant, you didn't have to be here. That is your husband up there, which means you could be sitting comfortable with your feet up. So, you know, we clicked and I was talking to her and she was, you know, it was lovely. She's a lovely person. I love her to bits. But then at the same time, I came there to get what I came there for. So because I was pregnant, I used that and I walked around, I was talking to people and people tried to ignore me. And it was the fact that I was pregnant and I looked about 15. By this time, I'm 23, but I look about 15 at that point, and these lot were looking at me like, how old are you? And I was just like, my age.
Who's asking you that?
People that I go up to and ask for things, you know what I mean? Like information or contact details. Ask me how old am I and, you know, how far along I am and da-da-da-da. I was like, irrelevant.
Regular questions,
Yeah, but I'm like, all of that's irrelevant. I'm here to learn what I came here to learn. And then the sign-up thing happened for the back of the class. And I was just like, do I really want to?
Is this where we met, yeah?
No, it was before that one. Before we met because this is the event that you had to go to sign up to get to the event where we met.
Ah.
So I was there and I was contemplating so hard, do I spend another £3,500 on top of the £15,000 that I already spent? I did that. Ended up at the event that you met. I had my baby. I had to book the event to the one that we met at.
How many kids you got?
2.
Okay.
So I had to book the event to after I gave birth because obviously you can't travel and do all that stuff when
Yeah,
you get
yeah,
birth,
yeah,
and
yeah.
the baby was so young. So the event that we met at, I left my small child with my mum and my mum and my siblings, and we came to the event where we met you at. And at this time, after COVID, and COVID has just happened, and it took about 2 years, and we had to reschedule it to come to the one where we met at. And it was good, in the sense that I learned things that I didn't know before. I learned easier ways to do things that I did know how to do. So all in all, it was good. Met you.
Yeah, yeah.
But I wanted to get onto the next course because I wanted to do the next thing.
You wanted
and
to learn more, and you always like that, innit?
Yeah,
What's the next thing?
What's the next thing? What do I do next? But nobody would tell me without paying, and it's just like, I don't have any more money. Like, I've spent my last to get here. You know this because I spoke to you about it. We had a whole deliberation on how am I going to make this money to get here.
Yeah.
Now you're coming in. I came to your event. I had to not even save money just for your event, but the transportation, the hotel,
It's all
food
cost,
I'm going to eat.
Yeah. Everything, yeah.
You get what I'm saying? And these people was just like, they didn't care. They're like, I understand that, and they try to sympathize, like they pretend to sympathize with you. And one thing about me is I don't like bearing my emotions to humans because I don't trust them with my emotions. And I have a trigger, and you know what I mean? It's just one of those things where you can't play with my emotions like that and just expect me to be okay. And
Let's go back one sec. So, you know, when you was like 18, 19, you knew you wanted to do property. Did you know for sure you wanted to do property?
Yeah, I always knew I wanted to do property. From since I was 16, I always knew what it was. But I didn't have money. My family don't have money. I had no investment capital. I didn't know that there was other ways to do it without money, which there isn't. You need money.
What age was you when you know, people talk about, you know, your purpose, finding your purpose?
Yeah.
When did you actually really figure out your purpose and find your purpose?
I think about 18, and my whole purpose is to make sure that I can retire my mum. Like, when I say retire it as in country way, and you make your mark. That's my whole purpose. I had opportunities again thrown at me left, right and centre, but the way that they wanted me to make that mark is not the way I wanted to do it.
Yeah.
I wanted to be known for this. You know what I'm saying? I wanted to be known for, okay, you took the time out, you educate yourself, you invested the time to get your knowledge, but they wanted me to do this. And I'm just like, this fades, like, you know what I mean? What's up here won't fade. I can pass what's up here on for generations to come. What's physical is not gonna stay forever. I'm gonna get older. It's just gonna happen to the point where it's not gonna be valuable anymore.
Yeah. So, you know when, like, I know a lot of people, I'm sure you know a lot of people where they just struggle to find purpose, yeah? Because I think you'll be a massive inspiration to a lot of young people because of the way you're driven and the way you just didn't take no for answers, and you just push to go here, push to go there. How would you say somebody should find their purpose? Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, if
because people struggle with that, don't they?
They do. And for me, it's because they focus more on the superficial. They don't focus on anything that has any real meaning or substance. It's like they run away from asking themselves a hard question. Like, if my mum was to die tomorrow, touch wood, that doesn't happen. But if she was to die tomorrow, how have I made her life better? Because it's one of those things where your parents sacrifice so much, and me being a parent, I understand that. When parents sacrifice so much for you, what can you give back to them?
Yeah.
So my mom used to tell me all these stories about how she wanted to do this and she wanted to do that. I'm not going to cry. Before she had me. And it's just one of those ones where she didn't get to do them. A hurricane came and blew away all her certificates. I'm not trying to cry. So she had a certificate, she had qualifications and stuff, and a hurricane came. Obviously on a tropical island, you get the pesky hurricane. Obviously England, you have roaches and rats, and in the Caribbean, you have hurricanes and roaches and rats. So it's like...
This is back home, yeah?
Yeah, so all her accreditations or certificates are gone. She only had a high school level certification, and she wanted to do all these things, and she's been constantly buying scratch cards from God knows when, and lottery tickets God knows when, hoping and praying that she'd win $1 million. When I know in my mind, and that's the thing about knowing stuff, you know full well that you need knowledge to do anything. You have to be able to know how to do something to get anywhere, how to make £1 million. playing the lottery is not for us. It's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
designed for us. The lottery, again, is another system that people use, and they select who win. You're not going to win. They need you to keep playing to be able to make the $1 million lottery jackpot. So watching her do that, it makes no sense. And I ask her all the time, like, why would you do that? She's like, oh, because if I don't play, I don't win. I'm like, who told you that?
Programmed, innit?
Do you get what I'm saying? Like, it's literally the motto for the lottery: play to win. So knowing that she wanted to do all these things, my whole purpose was to be able for her to have that life where she's not worried about where the next meal's coming from, if the gas and electric is going to stay on or last through the week, all of that purpose. When you grow up, where I grew up, your purpose is easier to find.
Yeah, so now you're at this event and you've spent some money, more money now, and then you definitely know in the back of your mind that you want to do properties. What did you move away from that course, and what did you learn anything? If you did you apply it? Where did you then struggle? Give me a little bit more.
I learned that I learned this from a young age actually, that you don't get something for nothing. So coming away from that course,
meaning that you have to pay for everything.
You have to pay for everything, and it's going to cost you, and sometimes it costs you more than money. It costs you your dignity, it costs you your humility, it costs you your pride.
See, we're talking real life shit now, innit?
Yeah, like it costs you more than just money, and when you don't have it, people play on that, thinking that it's cheap. It's like this: if I had £1 million,
yeah,
I could tell you how I want to fly. I could tell you what hotel I want to stay in. Because I don't have money, you tell me when to show up, and I just got to be there. I've just got to show up.
Yeah.
So when you look at these events, you have to think about it like that. They're beckoning you to come because they can, and because you don't have the money, you show up on their terms and their conditions. At that event, I bared my soul because I went there with a plan, first of all, and I researched how to socialize and how to make friends, how to win friends and influence people was another book that I read, and I learned this phrase called peacocking. So okay,
What's peacocking?
Peacocking is basically you use your appearance, so you use the way you dress, make yourself stand out in a room.
Okay.
So going to this event, I've been to a lot of events, and people just usually come again, tracksuit bottom, not really bothered. They're just there just to see what's happening. And then what's happened now is that nobody gets noticed because you all just blend
Look
in.
the same, yeah.
Whereas if you come in and you command the room with the way you look, all the heads are going to turn. So now the person in the front is going to constantly be looking at you because you're the one who's starting there. You're peacocking, right? So you're taking attention away from him that's speaking. So he's going to want to know who's this person who dares.
Yeah.
To turn, you know what I mean? Who dares to distract?
It's a bit of psychology, isn't it?
Yeah, psychology. I did psychology in college for a year.
Okay.
I just learned enough to then go and find another job because college, it's part of a system that is just, it takes longer to get there. If I had gone through the whole system, I probably would be just starting now at 26, and my whole aim at 16 was to finish at 30.
What do you think of people that go college uni? Do you think it's good, or do you think they should or shouldn't, youngins?
It just depends on who you are, what type of, the way your brain works or the way your mind works. If you feel like you don't have an entrepreneurial spirit, and an entrepreneurial spirit is tangible. It's not something that's just the figment of imagination or a speech. It's a tangible thing. It's a feeling. If you don't have that entrepreneurial spirit, you're going to be fine in classes, you're going to be fine in lessons, you're going to be stressing out all these exams, and then you're going to go through the system and expect to get that job at the end. You see, I find that people who have things, who have everything, do not have that entrepreneurial spirit for the simple reason they don't need it. It's not something that's beckoning them or calling them. It's something that's there, a resource or a tool at their disposal, and then they use the entrepreneurial spirit as to draw people in, sales tool. Whereas people who don't have anything, this entrepreneurial spirit is somebody who's like something inside of you telling you to continue, to try this, do that, learn that skill. You can take a skill and make so much out of it. Bags, clothes, shoes. I don't have skills because I wanted to learn them. I had skills because it's improvisation. It's something I had to learn to survive.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I can blend in and look like everybody else.
So, you know, like, obviously, see, like, if people can be watching this and be like, I'm in a job, 9 to 5, Tesco job, yeah, I want to be what she's doing. How are they going to come out of that job and become wealthy and get money and do this and what's the first thing they have to do?
Don't come out the job.
Don't come out the job.
No. I'd say do part-time.
Yeah.
My biggest mistake was to listen to people who say quit your 9 to 5 and just go full force, no plan, and it will work itself out. It doesn't. It takes planning. And the more that they promote that is the more that people say, this is the more that people can sell planning to you. The more that people can sell organization, it's the more people can sell time management to you. Because what happens is when you leave your job, you lose your body clock. You lose that I wake up early cycle. And now you work for yourself, so you wake up when you want type mentality kicks in. And it's not something that happens on purpose. It's just human nature. You get tired. You would get lethargic. Your self boss is the worst boss. It's, for me, coming out of that 9 to 5 is the biggest issue that I had because I had no money. So I depended on my partner. Do you get what I'm saying? So if my partner was not there, I would probably be stuck in a 9 to 5.
Yeah.
And if you don't have that support system, I have that support system. If I don't have that support system, I'm stuck in a 9 to 5 and I won't be able to get to go where I'm going with 2 kids. You know what I mean? So every day I give thanks to my partner because if he wasn't doing his 9 to 5, I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing today. It's a sacrifice on somebody's part.
Yeah.
But don't quit that 9 to 5.
Don't quit 9 to 5.
Stack the money, stack your money, put your money aside.
Yeah.
Money management is the biggest problem that people have. I still struggle with it to this day. I can talk about it and I know the rules and stuff that has to happen, but I still have that anxiety inside me. Like if I don't pay this bill now, I'm going to be in trouble. And people only tell you how to partially manage your money. They don't tell you how to actually manage your money. They don't tell you that if you put money in different pots and hide the pots that you put the monies in, then at least you won't be able to see it to spend it. You get what I'm saying? And when it comes to that point where you need to spend it or you need to do that thing, you need to find something to remind you that you have that pot. Maybe it's every month you set an alarm and tell you to go look at the pot and see what your balance is. And then every month you make a note of how much you've saved and you took away that book until your alarm goes off again. And people don't understand that when people say, I make sacrifices, what is your sacrifice? The fact that you didn't buy a McChicken burger every day that you come home from college, is that your sacrifice? What are you actually sacrificing? My sacrificing is I don't have enough money in my account to make a full shopping. So this month, I'm making half the shopping. The money that I don't spend this month goes into the bank or goes somewhere that I can't spend it, because if I do spend it, I've just taken food out of my children's mouth because they went with half rations for the whole month. And that's conversations people are not ready for. They're like, oh, you can't do that. That's child cruelty. That's abuse. How is it abuse when the government barely gives you money to live on as people? And when the government do it, it's fine. When I do it, it's a problem.
It's reality, isn't it?
Yeah. You know what I mean? When they do it, it's a problem. It's just one of those things. People don't, psychologically, people are not programmed to fend for themselves.
Yeah. So what's your plans with properties then? Tell me your plans with properties. Like so, what are you currently doing and what do you want to do and stuff like that? Yeah,
so at the moment, we managed to basically take control of my in-laws' property.
Yeah.
So they still own it and everything, but I've taken control in terms of, they came to me and they said, Afrisha, we want to make more money from this property thing. We're getting on.
They've seen what you was doing,
yeah,
right?
They've seen what I was doing and they want to make money in property and they want to get on. And I told them, like, look, you can do so many things with this property because it's had it for so long and it needs modernization. So we decided that we're going to buy another property. So currently we're processing a sale for the purchase of another property, which is a buy-to-let property. But again, we're having issues with that because of the rates and et cetera, et cetera.
I was going to say, how are you finding it with rates at the moment?
It's terrible. It's when I say terrible, it's a disaster. In terms of people like, back in the 60s, yeah, but that was the 60s. We're not financially equipped as an economy to tackle what happened in the 60s. They were. The inflation rate was different in the 60s. You know what I mean? We had like inflation rates. We had a percentage rates of like 55, 45, yeah. But your inflation, you can buy things for half a penny.
Yeah,
Do you get what I'm saying? You can't buy nothing for half a penny. You can't even buy a loaf of bread for half a penny now. It's £1.50.
True.
Do you get what I'm saying? So they always bring that back and it's just like, no, it's different. So now, going at rates of inflation at 7% when inflation's already high as well, it's been difficult because the affordability is lower, even though they're both full-time working. Their credit score's golden. It's just what the banks want to do. Yeah, it's just who they want to do, what they want to do with it. So we managed to find another property that was cheaper, because the first one ended up falling through just because the surveyors took forever to come out.
Yeah.
And we're currently going through this process, but now we're having to appeal it because the valuation came back like extremely low, like 40k below market and like £300 below rental value, despite the fact that everywhere in the news is saying the rents are increasing. They've decided to take £300 off the value of the rent, which makes no sense.
What about the property? How below did they value that?
40k.
40k below?
40k.
See, I heard from someone as well, I think it was 2 weeks ago, speaking to someone, and they're saying that they've been asked now to purposely downvalue the properties.
Yeah, so it's just one of those ones, but we've appealed it because we managed to find 3 like-for-like properties. And apparently by law, this is my community group, they're saying by law that if you found 3 that can contest it, they have to at least bring it back up a little bit. If it's 10% below, it's 10% below, but 40 grand is more than like 35-40% below.
So what strategy do you think is like a good strategy, like to pursue, for example, for someone who is not in a position where they can just willy-nilly buy properties and interest rates are a blocking point slightly? What do you think? Do you think rent-to-rent's good?
I have an issue with rent-to-rent.
What's your thoughts on rent-to-rent?
It depends. So rent-to-rent, SA, it's available, it's doable, but
not the service accommodation,
just normal rent-to-rent. Yeah. So rent-to-rent HMO is great. I find that to be a very good model. It's just to find the people who want to do it. And again, it's that barrier to entry you have to cross. So you have to know how to sell. If you can't sell yourself to the landlord, they're not going to give you a rent-to-rent because they're going to automatically assume that you're making more money than them. And then some people just don't like that idea. You have to find a landlord who's happy to do it. And it takes a lot more work than people are willing to admit. And the fact that, you know, you're just going to go to a source and be like, all right, they're going to find the rent-to-rent for me, and but they're charging me £4,000 for it.
But then there's a number stack up, innit?
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's if you wanted to do it yourself, if you don't want to pay the £4,000, you try and do it yourself, and see how much time and effort it takes for you to convince a landlord or get a landlord to agree to giving this rent-to-rent accommodation property to somebody else.
Yeah.
Like it's not easy. It's not light work. You get what I'm saying? It requires skills.
Have you done any rent-to-rents or?
We've done co-sourced on a few rent-to-rents.
Okay.
But I don't personally source rent-to-rents because I just find it an issue to get through to landlords that, like, look, this is what the situation is. We're trying to get, like, for this price, like, we need to make the numbers work on it. Some of them will just be like, no. One, I find issues to barrier because I'm a woman. So I usually make my partner do the calls because it's just easier. They talk to them nicer and everything. Other than that, it's like kind of, who are you to
Yeah.
I want this amount. You're not going to get that amount if you rent it out yourself. Do you get what I'm saying? It's just, I'm going to do the work. I'm doing the refurb. I'm putting the money in, the time, the effort. You just have to agree to rent the thing and you get your money back. You know what I'm saying? You get your return. You don't have to pay bills. You don't have to deal with nagging tenants. You just live your life.
Yeah.
And people are just like, well, no, I want this amount. You can't expect $2,000. Where am I supposed to make a profit margin?
Yeah. So for you, it's bespoke sourcing and it's mainly doing BRRs, really.
Yeah.
That's where you.
That's my personal goal because my family on my personal family side, we don't own much property. My dad does, but we're kind of estranged. Whereas my mum's side of the family, everything that they had been taken from them. My grandmother has siblings, and when she passed, they kind of like grabbed everything. It's just the way it is back in country, because if you have more than one child, all of them are going to lay claim to it, but the strongest one's going to basically take it over and fight and bully all the other ones off of it. So yeah, I might have land that essentially belonged to us, but I can't get access to it because family members won't let you on it.
Is this back home?
Yeah.
Back home politics, isn't it?
It's everywhere. Yeah, it's always politics.
It's everywhere. That.
It's one of those ones, I want to own something for myself.
Yeah.
And that's why BRR appeals to me, because again, it matches with my purpose. It's in line with what I want to do.
You want, and long-term wealth in it.
Yeah.
You're looking at it, and that's where you want to go.
And
really.
I want something to pass to my children so that they don't have to go through what I'm going.
Would you do flips?
Yeah, I would do flips. Yeah.
Just to build up that cash pot.
And it also does that thing where I have a thing where if I'm doing something, I'm doing it properly. I don't like to work with landlords or investors who may be like, just bare minimum, dust some paint over it and it'll be fine types. No,
You're taking it back to brick and making
yeah,
sure
I'd
that...
rather take it back to brick and make it look nice, and then I'll sell something at the end product, because I then have the confidence to go, no, you could downvalue it, and I'll just be like, no, take a look at what I've done.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? I don't understand people who get a down valuation and be like, oh, but I've done this. Yeah, but you've done the bare minimum. You've painted the walls, but you didn't plaster it over. It's still grainy.
Yeah.
Do you get what I'm saying? Like, you took the kitchen, you've changed the kitchen units around, but you've got from one wooden cupboard to another set of wooden cupboards.
Yeah. What's your thoughts on the property market currently? What's the opportunity? Do you think there's opportunities, or do you think at the minute
There's always opportunity. I feel like the media plays on where the opportunities are to suit them or benefit them. So because there's low stock, they force people to sell by saying this is going to happen or that is going to happen, people knowing in their brain that property is a solid investment.
Yeah.
But because interest rates are rising here and there and everywhere, and people hate spending money, it's one of those ones where they haven't done a long-term investment plan, and now the interest rates are going up, or the raises are going up. You're expecting inflation every 10 years.
Do you do joint ventures as well with people where they've got, like, let's just say 100 grand in the bank and that sort of thing? Would you take money from them and say, I'll give you 11% or 12% or 10% over a 12-month period? Do you stuff like that?
I'd happily do that. It's just me to find the person to work with to do that, because what happens is I've had people who's come at me, multiple people who's like, oh, I've got 50 grand, I've got 70 grand, I've got 100 grand, and then it's like, all right, cool, here's the investment, here's the numbers, this is what we want to do, and then they get scared to spend the money.
You mean send the money?
Yeah, to spend it at all.
Okay.
So what they'll do is, I've got 50 grand, I've got 100 grand, I want to invest it in something good, Basically, what they're telling you is, I want you to do the work, and then I'll pay you after, and then I want the appreciation straight away.
Yeah, okay.
That's the vibe that you get. So it's kind of like, here's the deal, here's the numbers, this stack. We need your 50 grand to put into the property. Yeah, but the market now is this. They're like, yeah, these are buffers. They've got the buffers in. I make sure at least a 30% buffer, and that's 10% on each thing. And it depends on what thing. If it's labour, I always put 20% just in case, because they always tell me about prices and they always tell me about this, that, and the other. Just make sure you have your buffers in place and go according to the market. You see a 15% rise on something, add a 15% contingency.
Yeah.
Do you get what I'm saying? Just to balance it out. So what's happening now is, like, you go and you're asking for the 50 grand, and they're like, oh, how do I know I'm not going to be scammed and get my money back, and da-da-da-da. Despite the fact that you have the paperwork, that you're going to be there, you're videoing it, you've met them in person, you've done all the runaround for it. It's just when they come to pay the money now,
they start getting doubts.
Yeah, they get doubts, and it's because once they've spent it, they don't have 50 grand anymore.
Yeah.
And that 50 grand gives them security. It makes them feel high and mighty. It makes them feel like, I've got 50 grand. Do you know what I'm saying? But also,
even though it's losing value.
Even though it's losing value in the bank, but I still got 50 grand. And that's where the mind is at. So it's one of those ones where you try to explain to them the situation, and it's basically up to them whether or not. I'm not in the business of forcing people to do something that they don't want to do.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of that. Not in a business.
And I'm not going to hard sell anybody on anything that they don't want to do. I'm like, if you got the 50 grand in the bank and you'd rather it depreciate in value, that's fine. Leave it to you. But you cannot come back to me and expect this deal to be here in the next 6 months. And that's what they tend to do. And they're like, oh, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. Give it about 2 weeks, month. And they're like, Afrisha, I have 30 grand. Can we still do that deal that you had? No, we can't, because it needed 50.
Yeah.
And now you've got 30 because you spent it on God knows what.
F***ing G-Wagon.
You get what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? But yeah.
What would be your... someone that's starting off in property, what if you was to give 3-4 tips and say, look, do this first, do that first, and then do that, and then do that, what would you say?
Well, just starting off in like sourcing, or just
no, just let's just say somebody who's brand new to property, doesn't have a clue, but they want to get into property, yeah? Mm-hmm. Where should they start? What's the first, second, third thing they do?
Check your finances. Like, assess your finances. That's the first thing I'd say, because your finances will tell you what you can and can't do.
Okay.
So you know that you have to pay for education. You know that you have to pay for things. You need to assess your finances in terms of, how much do I have in savings? Do I have any savings at all? Okay, no. Can I create savings? Is my income allowing me to do that? Yes or no?
Again, it comes down to money management,
yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Which they don't teach, right?
Exactly. And then if not, all right, cool. Where can I invest in my education? Like, who is providing education on what I want to learn? And how much is it going to cost, right? So you can even do a quick Google search. It's classed as research, and just mark like research, like how much property education costs. right? It's going to say you something ridiculous at first, like, oh, between 30 and 40K. You don't need to spend all of that. It's just, once you've identified what you want to do, go into the strategy and figure out who's teaching that strategy. Once you've learned how to do that, then you can build your portfolio that way, but also focus on what's going to generate cash flow. If you're going to go and do the education, also think of a side hustle that can generate the cash flow for it, because you can't spend that money out of your wage and your salary, because how are you going to live unless you're willing to sacrifice?
Yeah.
If you know that you like your Netflix and you like your Amazon Prime and you like your Now TV, yeah, I'm saying, and you Fire Stick, then obviously don't even bother trying to do it that way. Ask your mum if you can borrow some money.
To really understand your situation properly, innit, before getting into it.
Yeah, and prioritize your situation. Again, it comes back down to purpose. If you do not have a strong enough purpose, I don't advise you to borrow money from people, and I don't advise you to just like go head first into something, or just try something out just because it's expensive and it's costly, and it's just a waste of resources for you to be able to do that.
What about what do you do now? What are you doing now? What are you offering then, and what do you want to do in future?
So at the moment,
tell everyone.
I co-source a lot. And through my co-sourcing...
What is co-sourcing? Just tell me.
So,
obviously, I know what it is, just from someone
so
that doesn't.
co-sourcing is basically, I might have an investor and you might have a deal. Your deal might be like, specific location that my investor's interested in, say London, for example.
Yeah.
And I can come to you and I'm like, Ibby, I have an investor who's looking for deals in London. You'll be like, oh, yeah, Afrisha, I've got a deal in London. What are they looking for? So I give you the due diligence on my investor, and you give me the due diligence on your deal. If they match, you've got an investor for a deal, and that's co-sourcing, right? And then we split the fee 50-50. What I do on a daily basis is co-source. I'm compliant. It has to be compliant.
What is compliant?
So compliance is making sure that you're registered with the organisation bodies. So you've got like PRS, you've got the ICO, Information Commissioner's Office. PRS is basically, it's a property redress scheme, or you can use the property ombudsman. It's just basically a body that governs how you do your practices in the trade, to make sure that you're adhering to practices that are not illegal. You're not scamming anybody. You're not selling crappy houses, or you're not like selling houses that don't belong to you, etc. Stuff like that. And it's somebody that people can report to if they have an issue or grievance with you, and that's who they are. So then compliance is now you're required by law to be registered with a PRS or TAPO. You're required by law to be registered with the ICO, which is the Information Commission's Office, and they basically allow you to handle people's data. Data Protection Act and all of that is a license basically, so you can handle people's data, and they give you information which you have to read. Nobody seems to know that, but the Information Commissioner's Office and the PRS, they give you information and content to read to make sure that you are compliant and you are up to code and you are doing what you're supposed to be doing. And with that, you have to be registered in the compliances in the ICO. You have to be AML. You have to do AML checks. So anything over, I think it's £10,000, you have to do
anti-money laundering check.
Yeah, anti-money laundering check. You have to do the AML check just to make sure that you know.
How do you do that though? How would you do that check?
So you've got different avenues. You can register for an AML to be AML registered by the government, and they give you like a list of people that you could use to do your AML checks. Or you can find AML companies online that could sell you like a check package. So you can do like 10 people's AML checks, and it just does a background check on their income and their personal like jobs, etc., who they are, just to make sure that it's the right person, the funds belong to them, it's their card, they have a correct address in the UK, and they're legal to trade in the UK.
And how much does it cost to do that?
Depends. Different companies have different packages. At the moment, I spend about £110 a month for my AML packages, and that's like 80 odd pounds plus VAT, like that, stuff like that.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it allows me to check 10 people each month.
So you're compliant, and now what you're doing is co-sourcing. What's your thoughts on like deal sources? Like some of them, like do you think they're all great?
No, some of them give you a bad name. Some of them give deal sourcing a bad name. Deal sourcing is something to be taken seriously, and a lot of people play with it like it's a toy or like a Facebook scam thing.
Just to make quick money.
Just to make quick money, and it's because it's been portrayed like that. It's been marketed like that. You go to events and they teach you how to deal source, but they teach it in a way that it's not taken seriously. And because of that, you've got the connotations. You're going to struggle when you get out into the field because you expect it to be simple, easy, straightforward. But not everybody is the same. It's the same like mind.
Yeah.
Again, it's something to be taken seriously, and I just wish people would teach it on a more serious note, because you are playing with people's money. You are playing with people's like assets. It's something that's very, very serious and can have very serious consequences should it be taken wrong.
Yeah. And I take it you're at that stage now because you've been doing it such a long time that you're working with now reputable people in it. Like, you know, they're proper, these co-sources that you're working with.
So no, because I co-source with people who are not compliant, so I have to vet their deal.
So you still, when the deal comes to you, you still vet it yourself.
Yeah, because now it's essentially what I'm doing is taking on the deal, and they're contract working with me. So they're contracted agents now of mine. When we signed the NDA, when we signed that terms and conditions contract, you are now contracted on my behalf, kind of like how you'd hire somebody on Fiverr.
Yeah.
Right? So now what would happen is I would vet their deal, make sure it's a good deal, and then we'd split the fee should it be
if it's a good deal.
If it's a good deal, we'd split the fee 50-50, and I'd find an investor for your deal. Or I'd just go through my list and ask one of my investors if, you know, this deal is valuable for them.
Okay, so Afrisha, obviously, look, since you've been doing properties for such a long time now, and you've seen all the problems and this and that, now you're telling me that you put something together yourself for people, yeah? Do you want to tell people about that?
So it's called the SOS guide. It's like a guide.
I like that SOS guide.
Yeah, sourcing SOS guide, and it's just for new and existing sourcers who are struggling a little bit, maybe have had a bit of misinformation, or maybe just lack experience in sourcing. It's to help them get started off the bat, straight out the bat. So you go into it, you do everything you're supposed to do, and you know what you're supposed to do. There's no mistakes, there's no like errors with it when you're first starting out. Yes, it's going to come eventually, but you know that it wasn't purposeful, or it wasn't intentional, or it wasn't due to your training.
Yeah. So
I've made an SOS guide, and inside of it will give you like some resources that you can use, some templates you could use, just like.
Is this an ebook or is
yeah, it's a digital product.
Okay.
And you can order one from my website.
What's your website?
It's on onyxstoneproperty.co.uk.
Okay. So what we'll do is we'll put the link up. Yeah, we'll put the link up as well.
Yeah.
And they can go there. They can buy the product. How much is it? What is it? What's the price?
It's $29.99.
That's cheap.
Yeah. I decided to make something affordable because not everybody has £300. Not everybody has $250.
Yeah. But remember, you've spent tens and grands on these courses.
I did. I have. But I did that on my own volition. I've learned what I've learned.
And I put something together for them.
Yeah.
For $29.99.
It's basically a labour of love, to be honest, because I understand what it's like starting out. And I think like if a lot more people have compassion towards people who are starting out, in the long run, they wouldn't feel so cheated and scammed when they've spent tens of thousands of pounds on their education.
Yeah.
I tend to only, at the moment, I've already sent out a prototype to people who I've worked with closely, and they've said that it would help them. It's helped them a lot, and it would help a lot of more people.
Well, that's good.
Had they got this product. So I put a price on it, and I put it to an affordable price just because starting out is just the very tip of the iceberg, like the flag on top of the iceberg. Everything else, it's literally a lot of work, a lot of grind. It's not going to be the be all or end all, that information or that content. So me giving them that is something, instead of me having 101 calls or to do that,
they can just read that
and it would help them to get started.
And you're giving back as well.
Yeah, a lot of the hurdles are there, so they get help with that.
Yeah. And what's your future plans?
So we want to get this house completed. I'm currently looking to move house, so we've been like juggling all of that whilst moving house. But yeah, I'm wanting to build a portfolio. I actually have a few deals that I've been scouting out for myself that I want to get JV partners on. So the next step for me is to acquire some serious JV investors to go over the figures with and work on some deals together. So I'm looking to make purpose-built accommodation for people.
You know what? The best way to grow is grow together, right?
Yeah.
Joint ventures and just get people.
It was actually my first joint venture partner.
Who, me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was.
Yeah, it was at the event. It was the first person who actually took that leap of faith, and
I just seen you work hard and I thought, you know what?
Yeah,
These
but
guys are on it.
that helps a lot, because for you to do that is something for me that I want to pass on to somebody else. So I want to be able to give that opportunity to somebody else as well.
100%.
But yeah, it's like it gives people that validation, I think, that they needed.
Yeah. That you are doing something right.
That I am doing something right,
100%.
and people see that the hard work that you put in, and you're not just being like
Course.
blanked.
Okay, Afrisha, thank you for coming on. Guys, if you want to follow Afrisha, we're going to put all the links below. So don't forget to like and subscribe. And yeah, we'll be back with the next episode.